If you had one shot, or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it? Just let it slip. Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, plow. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter. He's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stagnant. He knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go capture this moment and hope it don't do better. Lose yourself in the music, the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the music, the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better. The soul's escaping through this hole that is gaping. This world is mine for the taking. Make me king as we move toward a new world order. A normal life is boring, but superstardom's close to postmortem. It only grows harder, homie grows hotter. He blows, it's all over. These hoes is all on him. Coast to coast shows, he's known as the Globetrotter. Lonely roads, God only knows he's grown farther from home. He's no father. He goes home and barely knows his own daughter. But hold your nose, cause here goes the cold water. These hoes don't want him no more. He's cold product. They moved on to the next mo who flows. He knows dove and sold nada. So the soap opera is told, it unfolds. I suppose it's old partner, but the beat goes on.
Absolutely. The beat goes on. Yes, it does. And the beat goes on Turf's Up Radio. Good morning, Wayne Voles, Profits Unlimited, with your final show of the year, Profit Time. Man, where has the year gone? As we look back on it, man, we reflect on a lot of different things, every one of us, on things that have happened this year, and good things, bad things, and different things, and glass half empty, glass half full kind of things. So, man, we have got a great show planned today. And, I'm excited. I really am. You can probably tell in my voice. I'm excited to talk about this because this is one of my absolute favorite things to talk about, because it's something that is so, God, man, I just having a hard time finding the right word for it. As an industry, let's just go that route. As an industry, as a lawn and landscape industry, as any industry, let's paint that broad brush for a second. Any business, it's like Mark Cuban says, sells, solves all. We're going to talk about selling today. And actually, as we get into it a little bit, I want you to know that I've saved this. I've touched a little bit on it, different times during my show, different times. But I saved it because I wanted to save it for the last show of the year as a kickoff going into 2021. And what we're going to do, and what I'm going to do, is have a selling series thrown in to my show, Profit Time. We talk about cost a lot, and, how important it is to understand your cost per hour of operation. And that certainly is very, very, very important, without a doubt. I preach that message as well because that's where I was screwed up with my business too. But once we get past understanding what it costs us to operate our business and how to determine profit margins, sometimes that's the easy part. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today is once we have that concept in hand, what are some simple selling techniques that we need to implement? And we're going to scratch the surface of that a little bit today here on Turf's Up Radio. Because, like I said, man, it's my favorite thing to talk about. This show is being dedicated to my mom and dad because they were both professional salespeople. And they were proud to be a professional salesperson. And everything that I know, they taught me when it comes to selling. Now, I've fine-tuned some things, and through years of experience and talking with people, I've kind of developed my own niche of how I do it. But they both gave me the foundation in selling and how to be successful. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today on the basic fundamentals of selling. But like I said, we're going to have a selling series, and I'm going to continue into 2021 because as we creep into a new year and we get into a new year, moving forward, that's all that a lot of us are going to be doing is thinking about selling our services to our clients. So with that being said, we're going to have a great 2021, every one of us. And most importantly, you are with your business. And I'd like to give my sister Sherry a shout out who's listening to me. She sent me a text and said she's going to be listening. And I appreciate that. Because, my mom and dad, they had it pretty tough. They had a hard life for a long time like you do and I do. We struggled. They struggled. And as an industry, we struggle. And a lot of those struggles come from our inability to be able to understand how important sales is in life. So it's hump day. We're going to have a great day. I hope your week's off to a good start. I know we're not doing a whole lot around here at Wayne's Lawn Service. Pretty much gave everybody off, in between, last Wednesday till we hit the first of the year. We come back and we'll be hitting it pretty good. But hey, right now we're chilling out. We're taking it easy. So what are you into today? What are you into today? You taking it easy, just sitting back, listening to Turf's Up Radio, working on a little equipment. Maybe you're working on a couple proposals for somebody. Maybe you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, man, I got to do some things different next year. Those are all good things to be doing. Absolutely good things to be doing. Matter of fact, they're great things to be doing. So, Hump Day is a great day on Turf's Up Radio. We have, we already had the pump station. We had Eric Jones. Later today, we got the Three Wise Guys coming on. Heckabus tonight with the nightcap. And then, after him, to round the day off, we got J.J. Harris with the duck. And just, with a full lineup, none of us are quitters. And we'll start with you not being a quitter. And I know that's a pretty quick spin on talking about show lineup and not quitting. But every one of us here on Turf's Up Radio are here because we want to be here, not because we have to be here. And same thing with you. You're involved in your business because you want to be involved in your business. You want to be a business owner. You want to be a manager. You just enjoy the industry. And what we're going to talk about is how everybody can enjoy the industry better just by being a better salesperson. Just by being a better salesperson. Let's take a brief break. We're going to come back and get in it. I got a good story of the day I want to share with you. But we've got to take a quick break here. Pay some bills. Turf time is 10 a.m. We'll be right back.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
Playing the best music. Hands down and dirty.
Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up.
Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Absolutely. Your industry, your station. And if you like what you hear on Profit Time and you want to hear more of it or hear past shows, you know, sometimes you can listen live like you're doing now, but sometimes, you know, you can't. Maybe you're out in the field. Maybe you're doing whatever you're doing and you don't have an opportunity to be listening, have your radio on. Simply go to where you like to get your podcast, type in Profit Time, and there's our podcast, all shows that we've done. And, you know, if you like the Pump Station or Eric Jones, you know, any of us, all of us, Heckapus Show, you know, the Three Wise Guys, the Duck, any of us, simply go to turfsupradio.com, and there's our show lineup. You can download those podcasts, and then you got it to listen to it whenever you want to listen to it. So with that being said, Turfs Up Radio, it is your industry and your station.
Hey, Green Industry Pros, are you new to Turfs Up Radio and want to learn more? Then plug in your earphones and keep listening, because Turfs Up Radio invites you to listen while you work. Our 24/7 live radio platform keeps you up to date, bringing you new tips and interviews from pros like you who want to elevate and educate the green industry. Can't make it to industry shows or events? Don't worry. Turfs Up Radio will be there bringing you live coverage, getting you in on the action. So keep listening to Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey, landscape pros, are you tired of digging through rocks and roots and breaking shovels in the process? Then it's time you checked out the Geo Ripper 616. It's a landscaper's dream with the Makita 6 Series 2-cycle engine producing over 4 horsepower of raw performance. The 616 digs deep in up to 16 inches of the toughest soils. Lighting, landscape, and irrigation contractors already love this improved lightweight trencher with its ability to get in and get out faster, easier, and with less ground disturbance. And you will too. This redesigned Geo Ripper 616 comes with 2 heavy-duty digging chains and a whole mess of helpful extras. To learn more about the Geo Ripper and how it can help you out in the field, visit georipper.com today.
Absolutely. If you have not checked out the Geo Ripper, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your success and profitability to do it. Man, just go check it out, georipper.com, and see how efficient that piece of equipment is and how easy it can make your life.
Aha! Yeah! Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., the Weekend Review.
The Weekend Review. The Weekend Review.
With all of your favorite Turfs Up Radio hosts, including Hecubus, the Turf Teacher, Matt the Grass Factor Martin, Wayne the Prophet Bowles, and many more. Join us live as we unpack the week and share what you may have missed live on Turfs Up Radio. That's the Weekend Review, Saturdays at 9 to 10 a.m. right here on Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Yeah! Absolutely. You know, and as we get into this next segment, I just thought we'd listen to a song just to get us fired up and motivated just a little bit. Bachman Turner Overdrive here for you on Turfs Up Radio.
Ooh, ooh.
Absolutely. You ain't seen nothing yet. And that's what I want you to think about with your business. That you ain't seen nothing yet. Because, 2021's creeping in on us, and you're going to make it a great year for your business. Even though you had a great year this past year, we're going to have an even better year coming up. And I want to tell you, a fun fact of the day I heard this morning. They had it on, I was watching the news this morning when I was getting up. Today happens to be National Bacon Day. Seems like there's always something for every day, or, multiple things, I guess. But so, hey, people put bacon on everything anymore. So today's National Bacon Day for all you guys that love to eat bacon. I know if Daniel's listening to this, man, and Holly, they're going to be saying, man, easy on the bacon, easy on the bacon. Hey, one piece probably ain't going to hurt you. So, hey, if you like bacon, have a piece of bacon. But anyway, it's National Bacon Day. Enjoy your bacon. The bacon-making people, man. So anyway, as we move along, I got a quick story today I want to tell you guys because it certainly does relate to selling and what I'm going to talk about. It certainly does. And it happened to me last night on Facebook. Some of you guys see, a lot of times I'll post the night before a show and say, hey, come listen to me in the morning. I'm on at 10 a.m., blah, 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 and I give you a little line of what we're going to be talking about. But last night, I had one of the Facebook pages, and I'm not throwing them under the bus for this at all. I'm not. It sounds like it initially, but I'm not. But it has to do with wanting to be better at what we're doing as an industry. But I just simply posted up on there that, hey, join me tomorrow live at 10 a.m. on Turfs Up Radio. We're going to be talking about selling. Okay? Well, boom. They knocked that post down. I got a message from the administrator that says, we're not a self-promoting page, and next time this happens, blah, 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 blah. Is that self-promoting to say, hey, come join us on Turfs Up Radio? We're not a self-promoting. I'm not self-promoting. I'm giving a guy an opportunity. I'm giving a contractor an opportunity that may be on that page, the opportunity to learn about Turfs Up Radio. There isn't a contributor on Turfs Up Radio that pats herself on the back and self-promotes and says, bye, 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 bye. Turfs Up Radio is all about educating and elevating the industry to a more professional level. And that is a perfect example. And as a matter of fact, the Facebook page that removed that post and said it was self-promoting have been a guest on Turfs Up Radio in the past. Darren's hosted them. So they should know what Turfs Up Radio is all about. Now you say, Wayne, man, you're throwing somebody under the bus. I am not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just saying if you're going to promote your social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook page or Little Bunny Foo-Foo page or whatever it is, man, don't just talk the talk, man. Walk the walk. It's simple. If you really want to help educate the people involved on your page, give them an opportunity to as many resources that they can get to be different and better. I mean, I took that as a personal strike against Turfs Up Radio. So, anyways, a lot of falsehoods out there. Don't be so hung up with your own little podcast and your own little messages that you like to disseminate. It's like I say all the time, man, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Every one of us have good things that we do within our business. And as we move into the selling side of what I'm going to talk about today, selling is all about knowledge. If you really care about your members, give them the opportunity to listen to an unbiased show of contributors in a radio station that can truly help them elevate their business to another level and not just hear it based on 2 or 3 moderators Jesus Christ. Sorry. I just, it just frustrates me after 41 years of being in this industry that people are still self-centered. You want your company to be successful. You got to be open-minded. You got to have your eyes wide open. And I get it that you don't want somebody coming on and doing a self-promotion of products. I get that absolutely. But on the other hand, if you're really trying to help people out, you ought to be trying to hook them up with Turf's Up Radio, quite honestly, because it is the only radio station in the world that does what we do. With that being said, let's talk about selling. My absolute favorite thing to talk about. And again, if you're just joining us, and if you've got any input as we go through, as I talk about selling a little bit, and you feel free to text me, what you do and what you don't do in selling. If you want to have any interaction, feel free to shoot me a text at 502-550-8307. It's 502-550-8307. But I remember, and Sherry, if you're still listening with me, I'm sure you are, you probably remember Dad sitting us down. And I never will forget it. I was about 17 years old. And, selling was always the conversation around the house. Or a lot of the times, not always. But, in selling, there's, he always said there's a few simple things you just need to understand in selling. And he asked me, he says, Wayne, he said, what's the most important thing in selling? And that's what I challenge you with. What's the most important thing in selling? No. What do you think it is? It's not a right or wrong answer, but when he was sitting down and role playing with me and we're going through all this, he asked me that. And, that was one of the first lessons in selling that I got from him, because when I start giving him answers, all the answers that I were coming up with were wrong, because it's things that I thought were the most important things in selling, like, cost. Well, we got to be competitive. We got, cost is important. Yeah, he'd say that's important, but really, what's the most important thing? Well, how about a relationship with the customer? That's very important. You got to have a good relationship, because selling's all about relationships, Dad. You've already taught me that. Yeah, that's true too. But that is not the absolute most important thing in selling. When we look at selling, it goes back to, is it a forgotten art because so many of us are cost selling versus value selling now because we don't understand the very most important thing in selling? Or is it something that we maybe never learned? And I'm not insulting your intelligence with that. The absolute most important thing in selling. Somebody text me what you think it is. 502-550-8307. Somebody just shoot me a text. And while you're thinking about it, we're going to take a brief break, because I want you to think about it, and I want somebody to text me what you think the most important thing in selling is. Turf time is 10:26 a.m. We'll be right back.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world, no one rocks like Turf's Up Radio. Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey Turf's Up Radio fans, do you know what time it is? That's right, it's Turf's Up Radio time. Now you can hear the latest updates in green industry news, services and technology. Learn about new products all while enjoying the best music. If you don't believe me, then ask my good friend Alexa. Just say launch Turf's Up Radio.
Hey Turf's Up Radio fans, do you know what time it is? That's right, it's time for Turf's Up Radio. Now you can catch us streaming live 24/7 with pro talk, pro tips, and pro interviews. Simply visit turfsupradio.com.
You're listening to Turf's Up Radio, the only radio station of its kind dedicated to the green industry. Now you can even ask Alexa to tune you in when you're home.
Hey, green industry pros, Turf's Up Radio is celebrating what a great first year we had and wants to give you $100 just for being involved. That's right. All you have to do is visit turfsupradio.com/shout out for 100 and follow a few easy steps. When you hear your name live on the radio, we're going to send you a crisp $100 bill. So be sure to visit turfsupradio.com/shout out for 100 to claim your cash. And remember, Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station. Hey, this is Darren, your host of Raise the Mic here on Turf's Up Radio. Be sure not to miss a new episode every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. when I'll be raising the mic to another green industry professional like you. You'll hear how others got started in the business, how they've achieved success, and best of all, how you can learn from their experience. That's Raise the Mic every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And remember, Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey, Turf's Up Radio fans, keep missing industry events but want to stay up to date on the action? Then simply download the Road Fuel podcast by Turf's Up Radio on your mobile device. You'll hear everything you missed, including great interviews with showgoers and vendors keeping you in the know. That's the Road Fuel podcast by Turf's Up Radio, or simply visit turfsupradio.com/Road Fuel.
All righty. Got a couple texts in already. I want y'all to think about it just for a second. What's the most important thing in selling? And as you're thinking about that, we're just going to listen to a little bit of music one time and let you think about it, because I want a little more feedback. I've got a couple so far, and I'll share with it right after this song that we got. But I know it's not wrong or right. It's not wrong or right. What do you think the most important thing in selling is? 502-550-8307. All right, come on now. As we listen to this Jukebox Hero song, I've got a couple texts in. Somebody else shoot me a text. What's the most important thing in selling? 502-550-8307.
In a town without a name, there was a heavy downpour. He thought he'd cast his own shadow by the backstage door, like a trip through the past. That day in the rain, the one you had, it made his whole life change. But now he
All righty then. Jukebox Hero by Foreigner. You know, I got 3 texts in so far from different people. That's pretty cool. Appreciate you doing that with us. And, you know, you think, man, Wayne, why is it so important? Why are we talking about selling this time of the year? And we talked a little bit about that, why. But there is a specific reason, you know. We just got to be good salespeople regardless. But one of the texts I got says, you got to know your product. Absolutely, you got to know your product. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about that just a little bit here in a minute. But with all due respect, that's not the most important thing in selling. Product knowledge, service knowledge, that's all important. And we're going to talk about that side of it. You know, well, heck, let's just talk about it now. You know, it is important to know about your product and your service, to know what you do different and better than your competitor. Because, you know, it's like my dad used to tell me all the time is, Wayne, when you got to criticize your competitor, you don't have anything to sell yourself. And I think that's something that we can all use as a takeaway today as we discuss different selling techniques is, do not ever criticize your competitor. You don't have to like them, but we got to respect that we're all doing the same thing. We're all salespeople. We're all salespeople. Now, you know, sitting at your desk at home or in your office and you're sitting there, it's okay to sit there and think, oh my God, I can't stand that guy. You know, he's such an arrogant this, or, you know, she's this, or fill in the blank, whatever you want to call somebody, or not like them. That's okay if you're doing it in private. But don't ever criticize your competitor to make a sell. Because at the end of the day, all that really means is you don't know enough about your own product or your own service to sell it on its own merits. So product knowledge is very important in a selling process. And service knowledge, you know, what makes you different and better is certainly very important. But it's not the most important thing. Another one that came in that says, do what you say you're going to do. And that is absolutely very important. You know, something, you know, always the way I was trained and still to this day is along that same line, do what you say you're going to do. But along with that, don't paint the sky too blue. I think a lot of times we get hung up in painting the sky too blue as salespeople. You know, it goes back to that old saying in selling that, you know, under promise and overachieve. Because if you're painting that sky too blue for somebody, you know, it's like somebody telling you, man, that's a great movie. You ought to go see it. And, you know, and you hear from somebody else, oh man, that's a great movie. You ought to go see it. And you got yourself all pumped up on how great this is going to be because the bar has been set so high. And when you see it, it's like, oh man, yeah, it's okay. But you know what? It ain't all that. So if we under promise and overachieve, we flip that whole bar and that whole concept around of doing, you know, that concept of saying, hey, follow through with what you tell somebody, but don't paint the sky too blue. It's still not the most important thing in selling, though. It really isn't. And I think something that we look at, too, here, got another text coming in here. Let's see. All right. Certainly we'll talk about that as well. Thank you for sending that. You know, but it really what it boils down to is simply this. And you may say, Wayne, this is the dumbest thing in the world, and that's okay if you don't agree with me. But I can tell you this. You know, selling boils down to a few simple things. And the first and most important thing in selling is you got to sell yourself first. You've got to sell yourself first. I want you to think about that a second. What's that mean? Because, when my dad was sitting down grilling me and saying, hey, Wayne, what's the most important thing? And I had these answers like you guys are sending in to me now. Hey, you got to know your product. You got to, know your service. You got to know what you do different and better than your competitor. Don't lie to your customers. Show up on time. Do the job right. All those things are important. But the most important thing that I believe in selling is that you must sell yourself first. And what do I mean by that? Here's simply what it means. You got to believe in yourself and in your product and know what makes you different and better than your competitor. Because if you don't believe it yourself that you're the best and your product or service is the best, you're playing catch up in the sales game from the first inning on. It's just that simple. You're constantly going to be playing catch up if you don't believe you're the best. And being the best doesn't have anything at all to do with your company size. I was a one-truck operation, and I had 13 accounts when I got this speech from my dad, or this lesson, or these words of wisdom, whatever you want to call it. But I literally had 13 accounts when he asked me this. You got to sell yourself first. You've got to believe in yourself. And I don't want to keep hitting you over the head with it like you're stupid, because you're not. But I just want you to understand that showing up on time and creating a relationship and doing what you say you're going to do and all those other things matter, but they're not the most important thing. Because if you don't believe that you're the best and your product and your service is the best, you're not going to convince anybody else any differently. Because what that's going to do is create confidence in yourself. And when we got confidence in what we're doing, man, the sky is the limit. We got to have confidence in what we're doing. And the way we have that confidence is believe in what we're doing. And we got to sell ourselves first. Turf time. It's 10:43 a.m. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Turf's Up Radio, the only radio station of its kind dedicated to the green industry. Now you can even ask Alexa to tune you in when you're home.
Hey, green industry pros, Turf's Up Radio is celebrating what a great first year we had and wants to give you $100 just for being involved. That's right. All you have to do is visit turfsupradio.com/shout out for 100 and follow a few easy steps. When you hear your name live on the radio, we're going to send you a crisp $100 bill. So be sure to visit turfsupradio.com/shout out for 100 to claim your cash. And remember, Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world, no one rocks like Turf's Up Radio. Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey, this is Darren, your host of Raise the Mic here on Turf's Up Radio. Be sure not to miss a new episode every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. when I'll be raising the mic to another green industry professional like you. You'll hear how others got started in the business, how they've achieved success, and best of all, how you can learn from their experience. That's Raise the Mic every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And remember, Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey, Turfs Up Radio fans, keep missing industry events but want to stay up to date on the action? Then simply download the Road Fuel podcast by Turfs Up Radio on your mobile device. You'll hear everything you missed, including great interviews with showgoers and vendors keeping you in the know. That's the Road Fuel podcast by Turfs Up Radio, or simply visit turfsupradio.com/Road Fuel.
Welcome back to Turfs Up Radio. Hey, I love talking about selling because, and the most important thing in selling, honestly, is you got to sell yourself first. Because when you don't have that confidence, you're just not going to win the battle in the trenches. It's just that simple. When you've got that confidence and you know and understand what makes you different and better than your competitor, and you've sold yourself on that concept, it's a whole lot easier to sell somebody else something. So much easier to do it. But with that being said, it's Hump Day on Turfs Up Radio. You guys that are just joining us, hey, we're talking a little bit about selling today, and we got a whole series on selling that we're going to do the first of the year. Not every day, because I don't want to bore you to death, but, because, this time of the year is when we're all, we're fired up, we're getting aggressive, we're thinking about going out and getting new work, and that's why I think it's so important in selling. And, something else takes place this time of the year for a lot of us, and that's if we're going to be raising prices or not on our clients, right? So I want to put something out there for you guys that Profits Unlimited is doing, free of charge, is simply, we've got a webinar coming up. It's going to be January 7th at 1 p.m., it's next Thursday at 1 p.m., and we're going to talk about raising prices without losing clients. Because there seems to be a tremendous fear factor with that within our industry. And I think that's something that we got to look at as what's the importance of knowing how and when and why to raise our prices. That we can't just let that customer go on a year, 2 years, 3 years. So join us on that webinar next Thursday, January 7th at 1 p.m. If you're interested, we're going to have it's already up on turfsupradio.com. So if you'd like to register, simply go to turfsupradio.com, click on the events tab, and then view events, and you'll see it right there. You can register. There's no cost, and it's going to be a great webinar. It's going to probably go about an hour and 15 minutes. But to help get you past that fear factor that a lot of us have. And even if you don't have the fear factor, that's okay. Join us anyway, because we're going to talk about how we can effectively raise those prices and not lose our customers. So hopefully we'll see everybody there January 7th, 1 p.m. on our webinar. So we'll be talking about it more. You'll be getting some information from us out on social media and whatnot. So be sure to sign up for that. Like I said, it's free of charge, and it's going to be a great time to get together and talk and be interactive, and it's going to be a good day. It's always a good day when we're educating ourselves just a little bit. And, we take a little bit at a time, and it makes our businesses better and more successful for it. So let's jump back into selling real quick, because we're coming up on that 11 o'clock hour. And just a couple other points I wanted to make on selling. Obviously, the first and most important thing in selling is you got to sell yourself. And then after we sell ourselves, there's two basic questions that we have to answer for our potential customer. And, if you just understand that you got to sell yourself first, and you understand these two questions that we got to answer for a customer, everything else falls underneath it, and it works. Okay? But the two basic questions that must be answered, the first one is simply, what's in it for them, the buyer? I didn't understand that at first when my dad was teaching me that. I'm like, okay, I get it, but I don't get it. He says, well, Wayne, think about it like this. It's all about perceived value. So what are you doing? That's my question to you. What are you doing to create perceived value for your service? Or are you simply out there pricing your jobs based on cost? When I say based on cost, based on what everybody else is charging. You know, are you sitting at the drive-thru and just taking orders? Or are you a salesperson? There's room for both, you know, and we're going to talk about that in a later show, but there's room for both. There's a lot of order takers, but there's a few salespeople. And salespeople, the takeaway on that is salespeople make a living and make a profit selling based on value, not cost. Order takers sell on cost. Just that simple. But something we got to remember in the wonderful world of selling is the person that hires us for cost is going to fire us next time somebody comes around the turn that's 12 cents cheaper on a bid. So why do you want to put yourself through that frustration of that constant changeover in customer base? Just train and educate yourself a little bit better. Simply sell yourself first. Create perceived value. Perceived value of your service. What are you putting out there for that customer to see that makes them think they're getting something different and better than what they had the day before in somebody else? Because the person that hires you based on perceived value, and then you follow through with it, like, hey, it's important that we follow through, right? We look at that from a selling perspective. We talked about that a minute ago, how important that is. But when people buy you for value, they're not as apt to fire you when somebody comes along a little cheaper because you're delivering based on that perceived value. Think of yourself when you buy things. It's not always about the cheapest price, or it shouldn't be, because that's just not a sustainable business model in any industry, being the cheapest. Now, you can be the cheapest if you want to, if you understand cost, but we're not getting into that today. But the first question that must be answered for the client is what's in it for them? What's the perceived value? And then the second question that must be answered for the client is simple, too. It's how can they pay for it? How can they pay for it? In other words, what are you doing to make it easy for your customers to buy from you? Is it, well, you want $40 in an envelope every week on the back porch under the mat? Are you taking checks? Are you taking some type of PayPal thing or whatever? You accepting credit cards? Or you putting, and we're going to talk more about this in our future series on selling, but there's a lot of different methodologies that you can implement that are going to give you an opportunity to make it easy for your customer to pay. It's just that simple, you know, and that's what we got to look at doing. So I think if we look at those three basic principles of selling, and we'll build on that as we move along through this selling series, the most important thing we have to do is sell ourselves first. Then we create perceived value, and then we make it easy for the customer to pay. It's that simple. If you don't learn anything else, or you don't think about anything else, and maybe you know this, and Wayne, I knew all this, then that's great, because we're going to build on those three principles in selling. But if you don't understand those three things first, you're not going to be as successful as you could be. You know, we've all heard that old saying, as we wrap this up. Man, he could sell ice water to an Eskimo. Or she could sell ice water to an Eskimo. You've heard that, right? I've heard it. But that doesn't make somebody a good salesperson. Just because you can sell ice water to an Eskimo doesn't make you a good salesperson. You can sell a fire extinguisher to somebody's house that's on fire too. But the need was there. So when I say the need was there, here's what I want you to remember from that saying. Anytime moving forward that you hear, hey, they could sell ice water to an Eskimo, know that that's not what makes somebody a good salesperson. What makes somebody a good salesperson, or even a great salesperson, is that they listened to the client. Selling has got very little to do with talking. Something to remember when it comes to selling, and this is some old school stuff, but it's right. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And that means you should be listening at least twice as much as you're talking. Hey, I appreciate that text that just got sent in. It said, great show, appreciate it. I appreciate you listening. But that's the reality of it. And as we wrap up today, here's the summary. Sell yourself first, create perceived value, make it easy to pay, and know the simple concept that you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more than you talk. Appreciate you guys being with me today. Hope you had an opportunity to pick something up. We are certainly going to expand on this as we move into 2021. Listen to Turfs Up Radio, because every one of us here on Turfs Up Radio are here to help you. We're here to share our experience, our knowledge, but we also need your involvement to make this great for everybody, because I guarantee you're doing great things within your business that you can share with me and everybody else on and listening to Turfs Up Radio. Shoot me a text with something that you're doing great within your company that you'd like to share, and I'll be happy to tell everybody about it, because I know you're doing some things great. You're doing a lot of things great, or you wouldn't be in business. It's just that simple. Hope everybody has a safe New Year's. Be careful. Don't mingle with too many people. And just remember, quite simply, profit is not a dirty word. And if we want to be more successful, more profitable, we got to be a better salesperson. And if you want to be a better salesperson, listen to us here on Turfs Up Radio. We're here to share our 200 plus years of experience between us as contributors. And you share your years of experience with us as well. And we're all going to be better for it. Stay safe and Happy New Year from Wayne Bowes at Profits Unlimited.
Get a good job with more pay and you're okay. Money, it's a gas. Grab that cash with both hands and make a stash. A new car can be our four-star daydream. Think of buying me a football team. Money, get back. I'm alright, Jack. Keep your hands off of my stack. Money, it's a hit. Don't